everybody, Dry Guy here. It's about that time where we're going to have to start doing a little bit of spring maintenance on my 2002 Grizzly 660 here. What I'm going to do today is just do a little clutch inspection, just belt inspection. The machine's got around 7,000 kilometers on it now. I replaced the belt at 5,000, so we're just going to give it another check here. I usually do this every spring. Check things like, you know, we're going to take the clutch out this time. Last time I replaced the belt, I didn't take the clutch apart or anything like that because everything looked pretty savvy inside. So this time we're actually going to pull the primary and secondary sheaves off and, you know, do a nice clean, thorough inspection. Check the spring for any stress cracks on the secondary, and take the centrifugal clutch apart for the primary and clean it up in there and re-grease it and all that fun stuff. So we're going to get a little dirty. I already kind of went ahead and took this off. I actually didn't plan on doing a video, but you know, why not? I guess fill some of the time. So the first thing you want to do is, before we start digging into the bike, of course, take your seat off your side shroud. I'm not quite sure how well this video is actually going to show up. I'm trying a new shooting mode in the Hero 3 that I use here, just on the medium setting. I don't know, I usually shoot in the wide setting, but since I'm kind of close up here, I didn't want a big fisheye look. So after you get the seat and side shroud off, you're going to want to take off this footwell here, right hand side footwell, and what you're going to need for that is a number 3 Phillips bit, or a Phillips screwdriver for the retaining screws here, and you'll need a an 8mm wrench for the backside, and there's 4 10mm bolts down here that you're going to have to remove. This might be a little bit of a difficult thing to get apart here with this foot rail here, fender guard, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully it won't be too much of a problem. If not, we'll just take it off. Oh, we're good. We're good. Alright. She's a little bit muddy. That's because it was frozen. It's starting to thaw out. It's about 4 degrees out now, Celsius. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, now is a good time to, before you even take anything apart, I always do, you know, a little bit of a frame inspection. If you want, you can pull off your skid plates. I pull mine off, you know, every couple of rides or something like that, just to clean them out and get any moisture wicked away from the bottom end of the frame. And at that point, what I usually do, if I find any, you know, big gouges or nicks or kind of rusty parts in the frame, I'll take either a good high quality black paint from, I buy the stuff from Caterpillar, stuff they use for heavy equipment, and that seems to have an extremely strong enamel on it. So that's what this is painted with, and this is, I repainted this. This is the same age as the bike, and there's no rust on it, because I keep, every time I see anything that might cause rust, I'll just touch it up with some black paint. So it should last me a while. Okay, so now what we're gonna have to do here is take off. That's a good word. Take off all these 10mm bolts here. Now some are longer than the others, so you're gonna have to just keep that in mind. That try to keep everything separate and make sure you don't lose anything. I got a magnetic tray that I usually use up here. Where am I gonna keep that? Oh, I'll keep it up there, I guess. So 10mm. Okay, now that we got all the bolts out, before we start prying on this, if you find it difficult to remove, don't try to stick a screwdriver down anywhere here. There's a rubber gasket that goes on the inside of this that you just don't want to damage because they're expensive. So my suggestion would just be kind of support the bottom and just kind of tap. And you see it just pop right off. So let's see what we got. I have to press down on that brake pedal a little bit. Just like that. Be careful when you take this off that you're not going to damage that gasket. Oh, look, a little bit of moisture in there. That's from the snow. Snow gets sucked in my my snorkel up there, and like if it's really powdery stuff, you can actually physically watch it go in. So it's not going to cause anything. So it actually looks really, really good. I'm impressed. That's good. So next thing we want to do to access the primary is we got to take off this cage. I believe it's just another couple 10mm bolts. They're kind of recessed in there, so you'll need an extension. Yeah, 4 of them. Okay. Now, doesn't look too bad. It's a little greasy. That's kind of a good thing, though. So now that we got the cage off, there's one thing you do want to inspect. There's actually a little carrier bearing in here to support that shaft. I don't know if they call it a bearing or a bushing. I think it is a bearing. I just kind of stick my pinky finger in there and just kind of feel it around. And if you feel any grittiness or anything like that, my suggestion would be before you put anything back together, go order that part. That's really a crucial bearing, and there's a little dust seal in there too to keep the bearing kind of free of belt dust and everything like that, and any other crud that comes in. Okay, so now at this point, the easiest thing to do is to take the primary off, other than try to work off this belt. I can show you how to change the belt if you want, but without taking the primary off, if you've never done it, a lot of you guys have already, which is you just take 2 of these longer case bolts, and this is threaded right in here, to thread it for these case bolts here, and you go into the threads bottom. What that does is that actually separates this secondary, or kind of opens up the secondary a little bit, and allows the belt to just kind of flop loose, and then you can work your way around the primary. So without further ado, I'll get set up for my impact and go from there. And as far as using an impact, I would suggest, if you're going to use one, use an electric impact. It's a little bit easier. They don't seem to hit as hard, because don't forget what this is attached to. That's attached to your crank. So you definitely don't want to mess anything up there. Alright, so I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I'm all set up with my electric impact. 22mm socket, deep socket, because you got to get around this shaft here. And yet again, try not to scratch the end of that shaft, because that has to rest inside of a bearing. So simple as that. Make sure you don't lose anything. Washer. And you want to grab the clutch as square as you can and kind of pull off as straight as you can. Just like that. Okay, good. Set that aside, and we'll just slip the belt off. Let go. Now, like I said, in order to get that on, you might need to spread that apart a little bit, make it easier on yourself. So just take a look at the belt. As you can see, like I said, this has only got around 2,000 kilometers on this belt, but I mean, Yamaha's got one of the best transmissions as far as CVTs out there, I think, my opinion. So we're just going to take a good look at the inside of the belt. You can see there's no cracks, there's no frayed cords or anything like that on the outside of the belt. And this is a Yamaha OEM belt. I could have gone with the EPI heavy duty or whatever type belt, but I just opted to go with OEM, because I mean the other one lasted me 5,000 kilometers, and that's the one I use for a spare, just in case. So we'll just get that out of the way, make sure that's nice and safe. Nothing's going to fall or get it nicked or anything like that. So here we come to the back side of the primary, and this is just a plate that just kind of slides straight out. Yet again, try not to damage that shaft. Scratch that shaft up. And if you're wondering at what pulls the air inside, that's it right there. It's just like an impeller. So that actually looks pretty damn clean, and you just run your fingers along and see if there's any deep wear points or grooves or anything like that in that the back side of the sheave. And this seems to be okay. So set that aside. And yet again, now's an excellent time. Right here, this is a main engine seal, and you want to be, Well, that's something new to me. That is a piece of a tail off a mouse that's stuck in there. So, yeah, he's dead. But oh my, that's unfortunate. I would say he crawled in my snorkels over the winter somewhere. It was probably nice and warm in there at one point. Probably cooked him. Well, I'll have to dig him out later. I won't show that on camera. But getting back to what I was getting at is this main engine seal here. You want to make sure that's completely dry. You don't want any type of oil leakage or anything like that, or even if it looks dark or kind of crumbly with like an oil dust mixture. You want to make sure that's nice and dry. So I'm going to pop off the secondary here. Same deal, same 22 mil. You're going to have to hold this one because it just kind of free spools. Ka-ching. Okay, don't mix up the two castle nuts either. Or not castle nuts, but retaining nuts. Yet again, pull straight off. Okay. So here is your secondary. We're just going to inspect the spring. Make sure everything's okay in that. Just look for any stress cracks in the spring. This has a Dalton clutch kit in it too, so this is not the OEM spring. See, this is painted white here. That's part of the Dalton kit. So that looks very good actually. And yet again, I'd run your fingers just on the inside of the sheave here and just kind of feel along and feel if there's any bad wear points or grooves or anything like that. And you're gonna want to take a rag, clean up all this, clean up the shafts, re-grease everything, of course, make sure everything's all nice and shiny and savvy. And yet again, there's another seal over here that you're gonna have to watch out for. Just make sure you're not getting any leaks or anything like that in there. And that was a good time to clean up the bottom. As you can see, there's a little bit of belt dust in there, a little bit, but that's not bad. Seen a lot worse. So to spare you guys the gruesomeness, because I'm not quite sure how many mice are actually in this. I just see the one. That's unfortunate, but that proves something to me too. Keep everything plugged up. I'm gonna have to put some plastic bags over the ends of my snorkels and set some traps down in the other shed. Yeah, I'm gonna have to end up taking this off to get that poor little guy out of there. So I won't show you that, but I'll get done what I got to get done here, and that's, like I said, just basically cleaning up everything you have here, and we'll be good to go after that, and I'll see you then. Okay, so I just reassembled the secondary clutch, or the secondary, just cleaned up that shaft on the end there, and cleaned up the clutch itself. And I resurfaced it on the inside, and I'll show you what I mean by that when I do the primary here. Hopefully you guys are seeing this. I had to set the camera almost on the ground here. Yeah, so this is just a dust seal here, and we're gonna need to take this off, and it's kind of acts as a retainer too for this. I guess it's a helix. I'm not quite sure if that's the proper name for it, but anyway, you're gonna need a number 2 Phillips rubber seal. It's just an O-ring. As you can see, she's pretty grody inside, so we'll take everything apart and clean it up nice and re-grease it. So here's your pressure plate. That just slides straight out of it. And just like that. And I had this upside down and everything like that, so the weights are all kind of screwed up in it right now. But these right here are your weights. Try to remember where they go inside of your clutch here. Try not to mix them all up. And they just kind of rest inside of these little retainers here like this. They're just rollers, basically, roller weights. They just expand out as the clutch spins faster, and it's just basically a centrifugal clutch, just not what you're used to, not like a regular chainsaw centrifugal clutch or anything like that. So, but it works in the same way. So, yet again, I'm just going to turn the camera off here, take all these weights out here, just clean them up, and re-grease them, and you'll see the difference after I'm done here. Okay, so now we're into the reassembly portion of the primary sheave. So you can see I got it all cleaned up, all free of all that crappy grease that was in there. I still haven't cleaned this up yet, but I'll just leave that part alone because, I mean, that's just simple. You just clean this gasket up here, and if it's ripped, replace it. Like I said, all that is just a rubber O-ring. But all the roller weights are clean, and the sliders here, and I'll show you exactly how all that reassembles. So make sure when you're cleaning it out, take out this center bushing. That just slides in there like that. That will wiggle itself out, so make sure that's nice and clean now. And there's like a little well inside of here for grease. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to take high quality grease. Don't use a generic bearing grease. What I have here is Molly. I think it's Molly 44, and we use it at work for heavy equipment, and it's recommended by Caterpillar. So it is a nice high quality grease. So what you want to do is when you're greasing stuff like this, especially when you're dealing with something that's going to be flinging around all the time, you don't really need to overdo the grease. Make sure it's greased well. Yes, it's going to seal well and get the proper lubrication that it needs, but you don't want to overdo it, especially when you're dealing with something that actually drives you forward. So another little pump on my finger there. So basically a nice, thick film of that nice Molly grease or whatever grease you decide to use. Yamaha recommends you use, I think they just call it Grizzly grease, and it's for their style of centrifugal clutch. I think it's like a Dow Corning type grease, but this seems to meet up with the specifications for all the heavy equipment that I use, and I think it'll be okay to use. So let's get that nice and lubricated. Actually, I'm going to put a clean rag down underneath that so it doesn't pick up any crap when I set it down. Okay. So next to your sliders, after you get this pressure plate here cleaned up, you don't need any grease or anything over this. This is going to be exposed anyway in the inside. Your sliders here, and they just rest in there like that. So the bigger flanged end goes towards the bottom. So that's one. You have to be careful when you do this. You don't lose them. Two. There's only four. Three. And four. Okay. Now that we got all the weights back in, everything's nice and clean. Take our pressure plate. Oh yeah, I was going to lube up those slide rails a little bit. So take a little bit of grease either side, just like that. Don't need to overdo it. If you overdo it, it's going to fling grease everywhere, so it's only going to use what it needs. Okay, so now that that's all lubed up, just take our pressure plate, line it up, and just drop it in. Now you're ready to reassemble that cover, but I'm going to clean that up nice and good. And I actually have a spare one of these gaskets, and I'm going to replace it anyway. So that's what I'll do, and I'll see you back for final assembly. Now, before I put any of these small screws back in, as with anything on this bike, any threaded piece, any screws, nuts, bolts, always get a coat of anti-seize. This stuff can save you a trip to the bike shop. So we'll put a little bit of anti-seize on every one of these. Okay, so now we are ready for reassembly. What we want to do is, like I said, make sure that the shaft is nice and clean. So, first take our back piece here, the little impellers. Make sure there's no grease or anything on that. You're welcome to scratch and scuff up the inside of the sheaves a little bit if you want. This isn't too bad. Like I said, when I checked before, there's no ridges or anything like that in here, and the belt looks okay. So you don't necessarily have to do that every time. Scratch up the sheave. These bikes are designed. Yamaha claims to have 11,000 kilometer belt life warranty on them, or not warranty, but belt life on them. Under normal conditions now, normal. I don't know what they consider normal, maybe road running, but. So you want to be careful over the shaft. Make sure you're lining it up with these splines. Okay, so we're good there. And now's a good time to check if there's any play in this shaft, because that goes right to your crank. So if there's play in that shaft, I can feel just a tiny bit in there. Like I said, the bike's got 7,000 kilometers on it, but it's not easy 7,000 kilometers, I'll tell you that much. So that's a good indicator that you're going to be needing crank bearings soon. So it looks like by the end of this summer, I'll be in for crank bearings, probably new set of rings I'll throw in it, and some new valve seals. So you just want to give that a good little stiff shake, see if you feel anything or if you hear anything. Okay. Now, what we'll do to get this belt on is we'll open up this secondary sheave a little bit. Like I said, you use your case bolts, and that'll what that does is just spread it out. That was a bit more difficult than I thought it was, and that was my fault. The belt was actually rubbing on the lip of the case there, and I didn't even feel it. I was like, what the hell? Why is it not going on? Anyway, you can see how loose the belt gets now that the sheave is loosened up inside of here. Um, and that is the way that you change the belt. With the primary still on, is to loosen that all the way so it spreads this quite a bit apart. Alright. Now, trick here is to try and line up the splines. It's a little difficult sometimes. So my GoPro died. Forgot to charge it last night. I thought it would. Anyway, we're at the final stages now where you can just basically slap everything back together. Right now I'm just going to start it up, make sure the clutch is working fine before I put the cover back on. And a lot of people have said it's okay to run the engine without this case. No, it's not. That cage is not there exactly for clutch safety. It's there to support that shaft. So if that clutch is a little bit out of weight and it starts vibrating the shaft, it's going to probably cause some premature bearing wear in your crank bearings. So I'm just going to start it up here, make sure everything's working fine. Yep, everything looks good here. So I'm just going to do final assembly here and be back out in the trail. So hopefully if you've never done any clutch maintenance or anything like that, I've provided you with, a little bit of information. And if you feel free like adding something, just go ahead. Add something in the comment section below. One thing I did notice that I forgot to mention, and it is very, very important, that these belts only go one way. There are the arrows right there. See, they're pointing towards the front of the ATV. That's the way that belt should go on. Anyway, I'm going to close the garage door back up here and get some warmth, because it's spring, but it's still winter. So, anywho, hopefully I provided you with at least some information. And we'll see you back out on the trail. Hopefully I'll get out this weekend.